Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between to yet another episode of Jackie's Got a Sports Show. How you doing? Finally got a camera back on the laptop. However, it is the built-in webcam, so it looks pretty grainy. Pretty grainy, not the best. Gonna work on getting a new webcam, but a couple of things in my life that are pretty expensive that I'm having to deal with. So, a couple days you're gonna have to deal with this. We're going to talk NFL honors and we're going to talk Super Bowl point blank period on Thursday or Friday. Thursday because I'm going to try to get a YouTube video out on Friday so y'all aren't like bombarded with content from me. I'm going to try to get out I'm going to try to make that podcast dedicated to basketball. Of course, there are some things going down in the football world that might kick off today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So we'll see about that. And then on Friday, I'm going to try to post a YouTube video about Andy Reid being the greatest head coach of all time. I could go over it in the podcast, but I think that can be an entire video. So look out for that on Friday. Of course, updates will be on my Twitters, on my TikToks, and all of that is in the description. If you don't want to go to the description, you just want to listen, I will say it at the end of the podcast. So look forward to that. We're going to jump right into it. But first, before I officially get into it, make sure you follow, like, rate, and share, especially rating, especially sharing. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and share it. I much appreciate it. Really got to get better. You got to get better on producing shorts, and I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this content creation. It's hard to keep motivation, but you got to take the little things. You know what I mean? I'm starting to do some little things right. So, being that we're only going to NFL honors and Super Bowl, let's go over some news stories. Well, one real news story that has come out, and maybe a little debate. Yeah, I'll probably talk about that. So, RLH shout out before I officially get into it. Red Light Homies, my other podcast that I do with my boy Z, released a episode yesterday talking school stories, our experience in school. Go check that out, please. My microphone is pretty bad, so I'm gonna look to not make it so bassy so that it really messes me up. But Red Light Homies, School Stories, go check it out on Spotify and YouTube. Trying to push that everywhere else, but working on it. Just like this one, where it took me forever to get it to several different podcast platforms. But go check it out. I'd much appreciate it. Patrick Beverly. Before we get into all this, while we were focusing on the Super Bowl, us football fans, Patrick Beverly has made his way onto the Milwaukee Bucks. It seems like the Milwaukee Bucks have given up on trying to rebuild a defense where they don't need the guard to be the main vocal point of a defense. They realize that they miss Drew Holiday a lot, which most of us, even the ones like me who aren't, very smart when it comes to basketball schemes, could see and could know or could tell that missing Drew Holiday is going to massively damage that defense. They asked Adrian Griffin to rebuild it. He didn't. So they fired him. They got a new guy in, and then they were just like, fuck it. The defense isn't getting better, so let's go get a defensive-minded guard, and that's who Patrick Beverly is. And since then, they've played the Hornets and the Nuggets, and neither team put up 100 on the Bucks. Seems to be working. Now it's only 2 games. It's against the Hornets, who aren't that good. It's against the Nuggets, who, while being one of the best teams in the West, not a dynamic offense. So it's not like they're doing it to, the Celtics or, I've tried to list a bunch of teams that have dynamic offenses and I just completely blanked. I know the Celtics can put up a lot of points. I know the Cavs have been pretty dynamic the past month or so, but the Mavericks, there's a couple teams that they haven't really done that to the caliber of team those guys are, but they hadn't been doing it all season. Now they got Patrick Beverly. Now they can base their defense around the guard being the heart of it. And it seems to be working. We'll see moving forward. I just posted a TikTok about it, and a lot of people are saying, I still don't trust Doc Rivers, which is fair. But let me know what y'all think of the move. Let me know what y'all think this means for the Bucks' future, at least this season. Again, the TikToks, the Twitters in the description. And that's the only real story that come out that caught my eye outside of football. So let's talk football. Let's talk NFL honors first. Who were the winners? And what was my record? So, MVP, I predicted Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson won MVP. Absolutely deserved. He was arguably the best player in football. There's nothing really to be said about this. A lot of people want to argue Josh Allen. A lot of people want to argue maybe Christian McCaffrey. I don't think they had the impact Lamar Jackson did. You take Lamar Jackson out of that Ravens team, and that Ravens team is below 500. Point blank, period. Right? You can say the same about Josh Allen, CMC, but it goes double for Lamar Jackson. Offensive Player of the Year, CMC. So I'm 2-0 right now. Absolutely deserved. 2,000 total yards, 21 total touchdowns. Absurd year. 5.5 yards per carry on a volume of almost 300 carries. That is insane. 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 That is so stupid. That is stupid efficiency on that kind of volume. And you had all the catches he had. He had an all-time year. He was, again, arguably the best player in football, up there with the Lamar Jacksons and the TJ Watts and the Myles Garretts and I almost said TJ Watt twice. Jesus. Speaking of TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. Now, I told y'all that Defensive Player of the Year was pretty hard to argue. It was pretty hard to pick because I think Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Max Crosby all had a solid case for being Defensive Player of the Year, and I still think that that's true. Myles Garrett pulling this out, a lot of Raiders fans were upset, a lot of Steelers fans were upset, a lot of guys upset, but Myles Garrett was phenomenal. His pass rush win rate, I have to say that slowly or I'll mess it up, was insane. He gets double teamed most of the time and is still destroying guys. He's one of the best run defenders in the league as well as pass rushers. And it's honestly, this is every year I've been doing this for the past 3 years. I've picked Myles Garrett to win Defensive Player of the Year because he was going to get it eventually. He is just arguably one of the best players on the planet. One of the best football players on the planet, point blank, period. I think he absolutely deserves it. I picked TJ, and maybe TJ should have won it. I wouldn't deny that. Max Crosby also had a case, but at the end of the day, it was Black History Month. So were we really going to disrespect them like that? You know what I'm saying? Was that a bad joke? Offensive Rookie of the Year ended up being CJ Stroud. Listen, again, Offensive Player Rookie of the Year. I thought Puka would get it. Puka had a more record-breaking kind of deal. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, CJ Stroud winning just, is another bullet point in the NFL just is in love with their quarterbacks and kind of screw everybody else." And I could see it like that, but let's not act like CJ Stroud didn't have a very good case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. There were people in the middle of the year saying this guy should be in MVP talks, which he should have. Not at the end of the year because he got hurt a couple times, had a couple bad games. But let's stop acting like this dude's Offensive Rookie of the Year case is Mickey Mouse. I picked Puka to win. I think Puka had a very, very, very good case. But CJ Stroud also had a very good case. So again, I'm not mad about it. Same thing with Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, we've gone back to back with the Jets last year having Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson win Rookie of the Year. Now we have CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. winning both Rookies of the Year. Now, I told y'all I picked Kobe Turner to win. I also like Devin Witherspoon. And Jalen Carter had a good case. There was a couple guys that had a good case for it. I thought Will Anderson Jr. was kind of on the back end of those. I thought Kobe Turner had a better case. I thought Devin Witherspoon had a better case, but I did tell y'all, if y'all go back to that podcast and listen to that portion of it, Will Anderson Jr. had a very, very big impact on the Houston Texans defensive line. Very big impact on why the Houston Texans defense was as good as it was. Was it a great defense? No, of course not. It wasn't a great defense, but it was a very good defense. It was a very good defense. Well, it was good defense, middle of the pack. And it should have been worse. And it would have been a lot worse had Will Anderson Jr. not been coming off the edge. Now we're getting into the controversial picks. Comeback Player of the Year, Joe Flacco. What is the criteria for comeback player? What is the criteria for comeback player of the year? Officially, what is it? Is it coming back from injury? No. Is it coming back from playing bad? No. What is it comeback? What is this award? Joe Flacco came back from being on the couch with his kid telling him how much of a bad quarterback he was. That's what Joe Flacco came back from. And he played 5 games. Played 5 games. Now, I predicted Damar Hamlin to win this, but I made a case for Baker because I think really Baker should have won it because Damar Hamlin didn't play that good. But I was willing to accept giving it to Damar Hamlin just based on the fact that you gave it to Alex Smith a couple years ago when he only played, what, 1 game? And that was because he shattered his leg and almost died in the hospital, and then he came back and played football. So I was willing to accept Damar Hamlin as comeback player of the year. And if it wasn't Damar Hamlin, Baker Mayfield was tossed out of every team he played on. Not because of his attitude, but because they just didn't like him. And he didn't play that great. But he went to a Buccaneers team that was not supposed to make the playoffs, not supposed to win the division. In fact, they were supposed to be last in their division. They were supposed to be 4th. And they won. And they won a playoff game. Like, how is that not any case for comeback player of the year? Joe Flacco comes in and plays in 5 games on a loaded roster. 5 games. That's not even a third of is that a third of the season? 17 games, half of that would be 8. So I guess it's a little more it's around a third of the season. So I'll take that back. But still, 5 games. 5 games. But Jack, they were dead were they? Were they really? Were they dead in the water without Joe Flacco? They just needed good enough production from PJ. They won games with PJ Walker. They won games with PJ Walker. What is the case for Joe Flacco? What is this award? I don't know anymore. I don't think anybody ever knew what the criteria for comeback player of the year was. I'm not saying we should get rid of it because it's a feel-good award, right? It's a feel-good award. But you've had guys that almost died who played 1 game, less than 1 game, come back and win it, which I'm cool. You've had guys come back from injury and win it, cool. You've had guys come back from sucking and win it, Geno Smith. Like, this award is all over the place. What is now you have a guy win who played 5 games. 5 games. Didn't get injured. Didn't almost die. He was on the couch. He was on the couch playing Madden, crying about a team that wasn't calling him, and his son saying he's a bad quarterback. That's what you're saying. He came back from that. Like, what? What is this? Man, and to carry this kind of energy, Kevin Stefanski is coach of the year? But Jack, the quarterbacks, that team was loaded. And that defense was playing so good, they just needed average quarterback production to win games. They won games with PJ Walker. Not even an XFL quarter. I think he was AAF. Like, I get it, but was that really Kevin Stefanski? Because for what I heard was that Kevin Stefanski needed to be fired. He went from fired to coach of the year in 1 season, and I guarantee you next season, they're going to be calling for his head. Meanwhile, DeMeco Ryans takes one of the worst teams in the league, point blank period, would have been absolutely the worst team in the league had Lovie Smith not tried to beat the Colts last season. DeMeco Ryans took that team, injected a winning culture into them, won a division, made the playoffs. Again, with a team that was the worst team last season. And he's not coach of the year, but the guy who was about to be fired, who is about to be fired, Kevin Stefanski is not going to be the coach of the Browns in 2 years. D'Amico Ryans is going to be in the Texans for at least 5 years. Like, you can't convince me this guy was coach of the year. Jack, stop. Watch the Browns. Their defense was carrying them to wins. I'll say it again, as I've said it for this segment and the Comeback Player of the Year segment. The Browns were winning games with PJ Walker. Why? Their defense. So was it really Kevin Stefanski who was pulling the Browns forward? No. Well, Jack, the Texans' talent was who got that talent? I just don't get it. And lastly, assistant coach of the year went to Jim Schwartz. No problem. No problem with that. I was a little upset that Steve Spagnuolo wasn't a Final Five. Steve Spagnuolo, and this is going to be looked over in the overall story of Patrick Mahomes. Steve Spagnuolo's defense is what carried the Kansas City Chiefs. Wasn't that offense? Number 2 defense in the league. And it's looked over because it's one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. It's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Which sucks. I think Steve Spagnuolo should have at least been in the Final Five. I gotta take a deep breath. Hold on. Final Five. I'm not saying he should have won. Ben Johnson did his thing. Mike McDonald did his thing. Jim Schwartz, who ended up winning it, did his thing. But over like Bobby Slowick, over Todd Monken, I think those were the final 2 guys. I definitely put Steve Spagnuolo over them. Just mention him. He gets looked over because of Patrick Mahomes. And he shouldn't. He really shouldn't. I'm not saying like hardcore guys who know the sport, don't look over Steve Spagnuolo. But the casuals are like, oh yeah, man, it's incredible what Patrick Mahomes did. No, it's incredible what Steve Spagnuolo did. That is the youngest defense in the league. I believe everybody on that defense is under 30 outside of, or every like starter is under 30 outside of Chris Jones. And he made one of the greatest defenses of all time. Of all time. They were up there in average points per game in the playoffs with the 2000s Ravens, with the 2002 Buccaneers, with the LOB. That is phenomenal company. And Steve Spagnuolo is getting no credit in the mainstream. Because, again, Patrick Mahomes. And it's like this debate I've been having on TikTok today. Travis Kelce versus Gronk. It's going to be a debate till the end of time, or until another phenomenal tight end prospect comes out. Maybe Kyle Pitts starts putting up great numbers again. Maybe Brock Bowers does his thing. Travis Kelce versus Rob Gronkowski for greatest tight end of all time. People act like Tony Gonzalez doesn't exist. But I say that a tight end's job includes not only being a good receiver, but being a good blocker. Right? And people are overlooking the blocking aspect of being a tight end because receiving is more sexy. You can put receiving ability in statistics. Not fully, but you can do it. You can't really put blocking in statistics. And people will say, oh, well, receiving is more important. And some offenses, yeah. And just because that it might be more important doesn't completely excuse the blocking aspect. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Y'all can let me know. I'm taking the guy who is 10 times better blocking and maybe a slightly less receiver. Of course, it's 2 different styles. Travis Kelce is way more finesse in the passing game. Rob Gronkowski is way more big and physical. But Rob Gronkowski is all-time pass catcher, all-time blocker. Travis or yeah, Travis Kelce, all-time pass catcher, good blocker. I'm taking all-time in both. You know what I mean? I had this guy arguing with me. Well, receiving is now 75%. I'm taking the guy who's better at that. Mm, you know, why wouldn't you want to have the guy that's all time at both? Better all around, you know? And then a lot of people say, well, do you consider George Kittle above Travis Kelce? I think it's an argument. I think it's a bigger argument than a lot of people want to have when you really look into it. Now, I did say Travis Kelce is better just because I think the gap in receiving is just way too big to ignore. Because Travis Kelce is a much better receiving target than George Kittle, but George Kittle is a much better blocker. It's not like that with Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. It's not like that with Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce. Not like that. Travis Kelce and Tony Gonzalez and Rob Gronkowski are all on the same tier when it comes to receiving. Now, they did it kind of differently, but they're all on the same kind of tier. Rob Gronkowski and Tony Gonzalez are many tiers above Travis Kelce in blocking. So it really comes down to what you want, right? Do you want a receiving tight end? If you want a pure receiving tight end, go ahead and go Travis Kelce. If you want a tight end, and this is, I originally, like, when this argument popped up, I originally made a video talking about this is going to be the difference between guys who are like tight end purists, if you want to say. Guys who are like, this is what the tight end was made for. Because if you go, this is what the tight end position was made for and is, it's Rob Gronkowski and Tony Gonzalez. If you're like, well, this is what the tight end position is now, it's probably Travis Kelce. It's a fun, interesting debate to have. Me personally, I like the more all-around guys. So I'm picking Travis Kelce and Tony Gonzalez, or Rob Gronkowski and Tony Gonzalez over Travis Kelce. But I'm not saying that there is absolutely no argument for Travis Kelce above them. I'm just saying that's my side. I wanted to get into that because I had that debate today. So let's talk Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs officially stamping themselves as a dynasty. Third Super Bowl in 5 years. I was going back and forth last year when everybody was saying that they're a dynasty. They're not. 2-4 is not a dynasty. But 3-5 is a dynasty. Now, in this Super Bowl, it was very close. 49ers once again had a lead against the Kansas City Chiefs. In my halftime report, I did say that the 49ers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, going up multiple scores in a Super Bowl. We've seen it before, and it didn't end well. And it didn't end well. But Brock Purdy, let's talk Brock Purdy in this Super Bowl. He really impressed me. He was very poised. He was making great throws, missed a lot, but also a lot of those misses were due to people getting in his face. His offensive line, especially as the game progressed, started selling, started letting George Karlaftis and Chris Jones and a lot of other guys really get in his face. He got popped by L'Jarius Sneed one time, but making good throws, very poised in the pocket, very focused. I was really impressed with how Brock Purdy played. The stats won't show it. I believe he had maybe 200 yards. He had a touchdown. I don't think he had an interception. I don't remember an interception, but his completion percentage was like 61%, so it wasn't great. But if you just go watch that Super Bowl and you don't come away with, man, I think Brock Purdy could be a decent, not like he's not an elite quarterback. He will never be an elite quarterback. But like he's closer to Ryan Tannehill and I want to think of guys who could just like Ryan Tannehill or Dak Prescott or any of those guys, the guys that will sit back there, make good decisions. I know Ryan Tannehill is kind of falling off a cliff, but back in the day, as a Titans fan, just let me have this. Make good decisions, not turn the ball over, make a throw when you need them to make a throw, and just manage the game. Brock Purdy can do that. Now, the motor was CMC. We knew that going in. Sorry. The motor was CMC. We knew that going in. And he was killing it. Receiving game, run game, he was killing it. Did have that fumble. And the 49ers just couldn't finish that last drive. They couldn't finish that last drive. I think it's funny, by the way, that Jake Moody set a record for longest field goal kicked in a Super Bowl with 55 yards. And I believe like the very next drive or like 2 drives from that, Harrison Butker broke it. So he had a record for a couple seconds, couple minutes. But that's what it comes down to. 49ers couldn't finish that drive. Now, a lot of people say the 49ers went away from the run in the third quarter, and that's what really cost them. Maybe. I wouldn't doubt it. But they finished that drive, and they're getting the ball back with a chance to win. Sudden death, too. Sudden death. They're getting a chance to win. All you need is a field goal, and Jake Moody has been money outside of that blocked extra point. He couldn't finish the drive. Couldn't script a good enough play. The Chiefs couldn't do anything in the first half. Offense was stalling out over and over again. They had one good thing happen to them, and then Isaiah Pacheco fumbled the ball. And then, unlike the 49ers, they kicked it up, they tied it up, go into overtime, and they finished the drive. Andy Reid scripted up a play he knew would work because it's Andy Reid. And they finished the drive. And they won the Super Bowl. I feel for the 49ers. I wanted the 49ers to win. By the way, my record is awful. Well, in terms of like predictions, I believe I have lost twice in the past like 5 years. So that comes Chiefs Niners, Chiefs Bucks, Bengals Rams, Eagles Chiefs, and now Chiefs 49ers again. Wanted the Chiefs to win and they won. Wanted the Chiefs to win and they lost. Wanted the Bengals to win and they lost. Wanted the Chiefs to win and they won. Wanted the 49ers to win and they lost. That puts me at like 2-3 in terms of who I was rooting for. Yeah, that sucks. That really sucks. But in terms of picking, I think I only lost once. The 49ers are going to be back. They absolutely are. I know Brandon Ayuk is throwing a fit right now. Or you don't even know if it's Brandon Ayuk. His brother was like, that's why we're out of San Francisco. Which, can we please stop having athletes' families talk? Can we have the athletes' families just shut up? Odell's dad, Zach Wilson's mom was pretty loud. Was it Zach Wilson whose mom was pretty loud during the draft? Odell Beckham, or I just said Odell Beckham's dad. Brandon Ayuk's brother. Like, shut up. I'm so tired of it. And the issue is all these mainstream outlets give attention to athletes' families like they matter. I'm not saying their lives don't matter. Don't take it like that. But when it comes to team decisions, the player himself, player herself, player themself, shut up. You're not them. And I don't get how, because I think we're in agreement right now. If we were athletic enough to be in these leagues and one of our family members started talking out of turn, we'd text them and be like, hey, shut up. Shut up. Maybe not be that rude, but why are you in the media talking? Why are you stirring up all this crap? But maybe it's what Brandon Ayuk wants. He wants to stir up all this crap. But we'll see. Chiefs are officially a dynasty. 49ers will be back. Let me know what y'all thought of the Super Bowl. Tweet at me at JJester615. Tweet at the show at Jackie Show. That is with 2 S's, one little, one small. TikTok, I try to post 4-5 times a day. Every 2 hours, I try to do JackieBoySports. Email me anything, questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want to do. OldJackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. That is OLE JackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. Much appreciate y'all tuning in. Much appreciate you watching. Promise I'm going to get a better camera in the future. And go check out Red Light Homies. We just did our 4th episode, like I said. Gonna try to work on my mic, but I'm having a lot of fun with that. It means a lot to me, so go check that out, YouTube and Spotify. And I'll see y'all Thursday to talk some basketball. RIP the NFL season. And of course, we'll talk about the draft and all that coming up. But y'all take care, and I'll see you on Thursday.